The solution. What we're missing in the discourse, what we're missing today is constructive dialogue, solution-oriented dialogue around how this conflict could be resolved, and not simply just talking about the how this conflict could be resolved from our own perspectives, but rather how this conflict could be resolved in a manner which would respect the dignity and the rights of all the parties to the conflict.
There is hope. People don't trust the Madrid principles. The relation between the people are not deployed almost 20 years. It is 20 years that the borders are closed and people have been living with their own stereotypes about opposite side on their mind.
For trying to resolve this conflict. Tabib in another meeting stressed the importance of keeping geopolitics out of this resolution, and unfortunately the geopolitical situation as it now stands has made things even more complicated. That's not just the issue of Crimea and Ukraine and the conflict with Russia, but also new divisions with the Eurasian Union and the association agreements with the EU, which obviously have close links to the situation in Crimea and Ukraine, and the standoff with Russia that involves the United States and the European Union.
But what we have from the other side of the conflict, we have a classic authoritarian regime, oil revenue-based regime, which is alien to the very idea of freedom, which doesn't tolerate any manifestation of pluralism in its country, in its own country. And in this situation, what do you think? How can both sides can come to the same platform of values, to the same understanding of values?
All confidence and security building measures, particularly in the front line. And both sides, they have their own clear preferences, which you, if carefully you listen, you've seen here. Azerbaijan is afraid of consolidating the status quo through confidence and security building measures on the ground, on the front line. And Armenians definitely want to have CVMs without having a clear understanding on the political issues. I think the approach here, this chicken and egg dilemma, should be avoided by having active work on both fronts. We cannot have a peace deal. We cannot have a real constructive discussions on the Madrid principles when our soldiers are dying on the battlefield. But at the same time, we should recognize, we should acknowledge that our soldiers, unfortunately, will be dying on the battlefield as long as this situation, this stuck deadlock situation continues. Because Azerbaijan will not accept a solution on a fair conflict, unfortunately. That's the reality.
And I think all of us here, as we think about our own positions on this conflict, have to really take on board that last point about Havaz, about that responsibility, and knowing that the situation is much more difficult. And the longer that the principles remain on the table, the longer the negotiations take on, actually the less likely it is. Peace negotiation, the attempts of Secretary Kerry to make a breakthrough in Israel and Palestine. And Martin worked very hard on that. He spent his whole life working on this issue, and very little success was achieved, because again, there was not the political will there. So I think that, hopefully, you in the audience who have a lot of participation in this, or many people on this table have their own role to play here, will start to think about how we can generate the political will, because time is not on our side, actually.